Sabres home opener tonight. We'll go through the lineups. I've got my parlay. We are going to hit one soon, early in the season. Come on, let's get one. Sabres and Kings, we'll preview it coming up next here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That does include our YouTube channel where you can watch the show there. Be sure to sign up for our text line, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. If you are not already a subscriber, we will have that for you tonight. Of course, we'll have that for you with updates throughout the day as we get more lineup news. Although I don't really think there's really much to determine. I think we kind of know. We just needed some confirmation on a couple of things cleaned up, and we'll have that news for you as the day progresses. And then we'll be reacting throughout the game. Maybe it'll be happiness in the chat. Maybe it'll be anger, and you need a place to vent. Then our text club is a great place to do that. Siki Joe DiBiase today on today's show. We've got a lot to get to. We've got the Kings and the Sabres. We've got the parlay between the two teams. I've got lineups for both teams, and my guess at what the Sabres lineup would look like for opening night the other day kind of does look like it's going to come to fruition. So we'll get to that as well. A lot to get to on today's show. Last night in the NHL, by the way, man, what was with the scoring? The scoring was all over the place. You had, by the way, Victor Olofsson scores 2 goals in his debut for the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, Jack Eichel has 4 assists. So, not that we were rooting against Olofsson and not that you maybe even care about Eichel anymore, but the former Sabres had a night. Vegas, by the way, wins 8-4. That was a big goal-scoring affair. You had a 6-5 game between Calgary and Vancouver. You had 2 6-0 games between Rangers, Penguins, and then Jets, Oilers. Edmonton gets shut out 6-0 in their first game since the Stanley Cup final. And then the one game that didn't have any goal scoring was Montreal shutting out Toronto 1-0. Samuel Montembeault, 48-save shutout. So your opener saw Toronto get shut out, Edmonton gets shut out, and then almost everybody else scored a million goals on the night. So a good night of hockey. You had a couple of close games, and then you had a couple of blowouts. And then tonight you got a lot more, including Sabres and Kings. Kind of a strange home opener opponent, I would guess. The Sabres don't often open the season against a Western Conference team just because I doubt they often have West Coast teams come east to start their season. That's the weird part, right? It's not that the Sabres would be hosting the Kings. It's more that why would the NHL make the Kings travel all the way east to begin the year? Maybe the Kings wanted that, though. Maybe they wanted that right out of the gates. They can get acclimated before the season. In a way, that kind of does make sense, that you might want, if you got to do a West Coast trip or for them an East Coast trip at some point during the year, why not just get it out of the way immediately? But in past years, the Sabres have played the Rangers in their home opener, Ottawa in the home opener, Montreal, Washington, New Jersey. They played the Islanders and the Penguins, it felt like 10 times in the 10 years before that. By the way, recent opener memories. Last year, horrible start to the season. If you are a season ticket holder or you're somebody that goes to a lot of the games and you went to that game, you would remember that they got their butts kicked 5-1 at the hands of the Rangers. It was a super deflating first game for the Sabres last year. They just were never in it. I go back to, of course, I talked about this on last show. When I think of home openers, the Eichel home opener in his first season where he scores his first goal. They do lose that game 2-1 to Ottawa. I remember another home opener where Connor Sherry maybe scored in his debut against Pittsburgh. I don't think they won that game, though. There's not like a real famous home opener. Let me know if I'm wrong. Throw in a text in our text club, or if you got a tweet or you want to comment in our YouTube section. Is there a famous home opener maybe back in the 05, 06, 06, 07 days? I do remember in 06, 07, they opened on the road in Carolina, the revenge of Game 7 from the year before, and they won that game, of course, because they went on their 10-game win streak at the start of the year. But I don't have a lot of other like famous home openers that the Sabres have had in past years. So the Sabres lineup, let's get to that. Take a quick timeout, and then what it's going to look like and why I'm optimistic about their chances given what the lineup's going to look like. Let's get to that when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented here on the show by Gametime. If you want to go to the game tonight, here you go. This is the best way and the easiest way to find your way to Gametime. And they have a new feature on Gametime called Gametime Picks. You can actually do that for tonight's game between Buffalo and LA. Makes getting tickets for your live event even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff, show you only incredible deals and great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They've got their super deals as well. Best way to save money if you're looking to go to the game tonight. And if you're looking for a certain type of view, maybe you like the bird's eye view, maybe you want center ice up high, maybe like the lower level 300, you can get a look at exactly what your angle is going to be in the seat that you would be sitting in. If you like to sit up on the glass, but you want to make sure, hey, is this one of those seats where the ice or the glass kind of distorts the other end of the ice? Go on the app, go look at what the angle is, and you're going to know right then and there before you buy the ticket if that's going to be the case for you. Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We'll go through both lineups, and then I've got my 3-leg parlay for Sabres and Kings tonight. I am committed to get what should a good target be? Parlays you usually don't hit a ton of. I'd like to hit 10. 10 though is we'll go 10. I'm gonna set the bar high. I think I could get 10 this year. He said before he gets, 1 on the season. All right, let's get to the Sabres lineup for tonight's game against the Kings. 7 o'clock puck drop at KeyBank Center. And there's really going to be a lineup that looks almost exactly like I thought it would, but we still didn't know, and I guess we still don't fully know and might not until we get to opening skate or till, I should say, warm-ups. JJ Peterka, back at practice, and Peterka was on the top line with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck. So no surprise there, but Peterka back from the concussion. Zach Benson was back on the ice. Now, he was rotating in and out with Yuri Kulik on the second line with Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn. Both players said the plan for them is to play against the Kings on Thursday, but they wanted to see how they felt this morning when they got up. And obviously, I don't have them on speed dial, so I can't tell you how they felt when they woke up this morning. But Benson and Peterka sound like they are going to play, and we should get further confirmation of that later today, maybe right up to game time. If I try to read between the lines a little bit, I might say because Kulik is still rotating in with Benson, that Benson is the one that's more iffy. Because they've got Kulik doing line rushes with Cousins and Quinn at practice, and then they're having Benson sub in and then Kulik sub in. Maybe Benson's closer to missing. Peterka, I think, is playing. I would be surprised if he wasn't, especially concussion. If he's on the ice, no, never mind. Concussions, you never know. We learned the lesson from Tim Connolly stories that you never know how you're going to wake up the next morning. And then, of course, Ryan McLeod will be centering Jason Zucker and Jordan Greenway. Peyton Krebs is going to be the new fourth-line center. Sam Lafferty looks like he's moving to the right wing, and then Beck Malenstein is going to be the left wing fourth liner. I think that's fine. That's a fine fourth line. Krebs down there, Lafferty moving to wing. He's perfectly capable of doing that. Defense core, Dahlin with Yoki Haru, Byram with Power, Samuelson with Clifton. I don't think you're going to see Dennis Gilbert or Jacob Bryson get into the lineup until there are injuries. The only guy that obviously could even really realistically come out of the lineup at any point is Connor Clifton. Clifton is holding on to that 6th spot at the moment, but he needs to play well to hold on to it because they've got a guy they brought in Dennis Gilbert who provides that physical element in the offseason. And then they've got Jacob Bryson, who I thought was really good at the end of last year. Two guys that are knocking down the door on Clifton's spot. But Clifton, I thought he was fine. Nothing terrible against the Kings. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, expected to be the starting goaltender for tonight's game. Not a surprise there. Now, some of the notes that I wanted to get to from practice, the Sabres, I think, are going to try to do better at in this game than they did in Prague. Lindy Ruff was all up in the grill of his players at practice on Wednesday, screaming at them, charge the net, go to the net, crash the net, be busy around the goaltender. The mentality of let's go get those dirty goals. And you're going to want the combo. You want them to be able to score the pretty goals. Tage, of course, is going to be top of the list for that. But Lindy is definitely getting into them. Hey, you might not be talented enough to just hang out on the wall and rip one-timers and dangle into the center of the ice. You might not be talented enough to get away with that. There are a couple teams in the league that can do that, but not many. You got to score some dirty goals too. And Lindy might be really pushing that on them right now. Now, when it comes to the power play units, you did see JJ Peterka move to the second unit, and Jason Zucker moved to the first unit. With it was all over the place. You had Thompson, Cousins, Zucker, Dahlin, and Power. Wild shift in the first unit. And then second unit, you had Benson, Peterka, Tuck, Bo Byram, and then Jack Quinn. And I don't even know if I want to call the first unit. I almost feel like but you have Dahlin and Tage, and that's the thing. I kind of like Quinn and Peterka for this, and I like, Benson for the power play. But Zucker and Cousins and Power are two guys, but Dahlin and Tage, I feel like whatever unit they're on, that's the number one unit. So little confusing what they're doing with the power play, but it looks so bad in Prague, and they were so bad last year that honestly, they could do anything. They could do anything at this point. I'm not sure it would be a bad idea. All right. What about LA? Let's get to the Sabres' opponent for tonight, and then my 3-leg parlay that I am motivated to hit this year. I want to get 10. Last year was a bad year for my parlay. I think I hit 2 on the whole year. I am buckled. I'm dialed in. I am looking at these odds all the time now. I want to get 10. I think I could do 10 this year. It's probably an optimistic goal, but hey, let's shoot for the stars, right? That's when we come back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are brought to you on the show by FanDuel Sportsbook. Check out all these odds that I'm going to have for you in a few minutes on FanDuel if you want total goals for the Sabres tonight. If you think you know exactly how many goals, take a look at that. Correct score. That's how you can really get paid off, by the way. Correct score bets, those pay out in a big way. And it's not just hockey with the hockey season starting up. NFL, all in. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view some live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You can check it all out at America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel, at FanDuel.com. Wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Sabres and Kings tonight. What is going on with the LA Kings? Well, they don't really have a very exciting lineup. There was not really the big, giant, massive move in the offseason. Their biggest name that they probably brought in was their goaltender. They brought in Darcy Kemper, who is probably going to start. Is expected to start tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, who had a down year last year, has had some good years in the past. So Kemper, at the moment, is the big addition to look at. Lot of young up-and-coming players, a lot of, top line. Who do you really rely upon? It's a Kopitar and Kempe-led group. And then Quentin Byfield is really starting to charge up the lineup a little bit. Top line for this game is expected to be Kopitar with Adrian Kempe and then Alex Lafreniere not of the New York Rangers, of course. Then you've got your second line. This is where Byfield comes in, centering Kevin Fiala and Warren Foegele. Foegele on the second line, I don't know. But when you look at even Lafreniere on the top line, I mean, you got a guy who scored 12 goals last year, but young player, 23 years old, so you might get a little bit more out of him this year. That second line, Byfield really broke out last year. After some questioning, like, ooh, second overall pick, this is not really going well. He had played 100 games in the league and had only scored 8 goals and only like 30 points. And last year, he more than doubled his career totals. 20 goals last year, 35 assists for 55 points, playing over 16 minutes a night. And he now has graduated to that second line center spot. Third line, their shutdown line. I think it's one of the more impressive shutdown lines in the league. Philip Deneau centering Tanner Jeannot and Trevor Moore. And then fourth line, Alex Turcotte, Akhil Thomas, and Andre Lee. So this has kind of been the Kings their whole existence, though. Even when they were winning Stanley Cups, just never an exciting lineup. You know, who's the fun, fast, skilled player on the Los Angeles Kings? Who's the last player that really fits that bill? Kempe, I guess, is pretty close. He's great. 75 points last year. He's a little bigger. He's a 6'2" guy, so it's not like he's small. Not that that matters, but 41 goals last year. Like maybe Kempe does fit the bill, but that's the best they've got in the last 8 years for a player of that caliber. And then the blue line. The big story here on the blue line is no Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty injured in the preseason, really ugly injury, kind of crunched his legs into the boards. He's out for a while. So the blue line suddenly looks like something you could attack. Mikey Anderson, Jordan Spence up top, Vladislav Gavrikov and Kyle Burrows on the second pair, Joel Edmondson and Brant Clark on the third pair. I would expect the Sabres to be able to get after that blue line. But the Kings and their system, also might make up for that just a little bit. So that's what you're looking at for the LA Kings. On the year, where the Kings are expected to be, they're expected to be a team that is competing for the playoffs. Are they expected to be a division winner? They are not. Are they expected to be a Stanley Cup winner? They are not. But a team that is expected right around the playoffs. If you look at Pacific Division odds on the year and where they rank, they're not top 3 in their own division. But they could win it. They're a team that I think is capable, just not a team you would think of as a favorite. And then finally for tonight, my 3-leg parlay for Sabres and Kings. And here we go. 3-leg parlay. And I think we're going to start off with a good win. All right. Leg number 1. I think the Sabres are going to be scoring not as many goals as they have in the past. 2 years ago, especially. I think they're going to struggle to score. I've been saying it since the offseason. And I think you're going to see a commitment to defense. I think you're going to see more of a realization of Lindy that, I can't play this wide open style of hockey. I think you're going to see some low scoring games. And I've got the Sabres and the Kings going under 6.5 goals. I think at the beginning of the year, you're going to see some unders for this hockey. And then you might see it even out and the odds start to react to that once we get to November. But at the beginning of the year, I like the under for the Buffalo Sabres. I just don't think they're going to score enough goals, and the Kings are not this big offensive dynamo either that I think is going to score a lot of goals either. So under 6.5, I could easily see a 3-2 game, a 4-2 game, by the way, cash us in on this one. I am going to go anytime goal scorer, J.J. Peterka. Peterka on that top line, he did have a lot of chances in those first 4 periods that he played, bunch of chances, but he didn't, didn't get one buried. Preseason obviously hit a bunch too. Back on the lineup, I think he's going to be a 35-40 goal guy this year for the Sabres. So I'm going Peterka as an anytime goal scorer, one of the favorites to score a goal. I'm not going for the big long shot to start the year. Got to get the wins here. And then I am going to go no first period goal in the first 5 minutes. And here's why. The Sabres and Lindy Ruff, I asked them about it this week. It's on their minds. It's on their minds. There is going to be, I think, an extra level of commitment to not give up a goal in the first 5 minutes of the game because the Sabres did that a lot last year, and I wonder if they want to double down to ensure that they don't. So I think you're going to see a more protective type of game plan at the beginning of the year because of that. And I already think you're going to get the under in this game. So I'm going no on first period goal in the first 5 minutes. So under 6.5 goals. JJ Peterka, anytime goal scorer, no on first period goal in the first 5 minutes. Wow, look at this. It's destiny. The odds on that parlay at FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 716. There we go. Plus 716. It's destiny. $10 to win, $71.67. Or if you want to go bigger, it's up to you. Or you want to go smaller. Or you don't have to do anything. So that's my parlay. Under 6.5 goals, you're going to score no goal in the first 5 minutes. Enjoy the home opener. Hopefully, we're talking to you after a Sabres win. 0-3 is going to be a bad feeling. So, not quite a must-win, but maybe a mental must-win. And they will get booed tonight. If they don't play well, they will get booed, and that is not the way you want to start because we also know these players take that personally. Even though they shouldn't. Last year, they got booed, and they took it personally, and they pouted about it for 3 months. So, that's not a thing we need. But they'll get booed. They should get booed. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Be sure to check out our Locked On Sabres text line. If you want to text us, give us a thought, want to react to events maybe during the game, or you want to get some updates throughout the day on the lineup and confirmation on Turka, Benson, and Lukanen being all in the lineup tonight. That's going to be throughout the day. So stay tuned. Locked On Sabres. Be sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey for your second listen to dominate your fantasy league. If you want some Locked On Bills chatter, Joe Marino has got you covered over on the Locked On Bills. Thanks for listening to the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.